Welcome to the LSU Sports Insider podcast. It is the month of July, which means we're just 1 month away from football season. But in the meantime, lots to talk about here. I'm Zach Ewing. This is Scott Rabalais and Sheldon Mickles. We are here on Monday, July the 1st, kind of a early week edition this week with the holiday going on later. And we're going to talk LSU athletes in the Paris Olympics, which are also coming up in less than a month. And our own Scott Rabalais will be in Paris for the event. So we're going to talk lots about that. I was with Koki and Reed for the last couple of weeks, guys, filling in here on the LSU podcast. So I've gone from the old guy in the room. You've given me new life.
We're glad we could be here for you.
I'm only kidding.
Experience.
Yes, there is a lot of experience in this room. And by the way, as we say, Rab, you're going to Paris for the Olympics. Nobody covers LSU sports like The Advocate, and it's always been that way. Nobody ever has. Nobody ever will. And so this is kind of an exciting month for you.
Oh, it's very exciting. I'm looking forward to it. I've only been to one Olympics. I went to Atlanta in '96, and that was just as a spectator for a few things. But yeah, it's very exciting. And obviously, we're going to follow the local stories, the athletes with LSU and Louisiana ties, and there's a lot of them. As just the numbers are really popping up as we've come to the end of the trials for all the various countries. So the teams are going to be set very quickly, as they have to be. The opening ceremonies are July 26th.
Yep, 25 days from now. And that's the reason for the timing of this. All the Olympic trials had to wrap up by June 30th, by yesterday. And Sheldon, you're here as our track expert, and the U.S. track and field trials, of course, were the big one this weekend in the U.S. And, just a full chock-a-block weekend full of events, and a lot of LSU guys going too.
Yeah, and first of all, the Olympic trials are awesome to watch for 8 days. They had 2 practice rest days in the middle. But when you finish with a world record in the 400-meter hurdles, women's 400-meter hurdles, by Sid the Kid McLaughlin, as they used to call her, Sid McLaughlin Lavrone, what a way to end it. I think it was a good segue into the Olympics later this month.
All right, I do want to get a couple of things Reed and Koki and I talked about out of the way before we really dig into the Olympics. EA Sports, for its new college football video game, ranks Tiger Stadium as the 3rd toughest place to play. On a scale of 1 to 10, how ridiculous is that?
Well, ranking it behind Bryant-Denny Stadium, I mean, given the results, and Alabama's just been so hard to beat there, although LSU's won there a couple of times in recent years. But Kyle Field, I mean, no. Tiger Stadium does not rank behind Kyle Field in terms of difficulty to play. It's all subjective, and it's made to do what we're doing right here, which is discussing it and mentioning EA Sports bringing back their football game for the first time in several years, I think, right?
About 15 years.
Yeah, so longer than I thought. But, I think it's kind of silly. And Garrett Nussmeier said, I think, at the Manning Passing Academy, right, Sheldon?
Yeah, he said, somebody asked him about it, and Garrett, it was towards the end of a 40-minute interview session, and Garrett was sitting there, and somebody said, what do you think of the EA Stadium rankings? And he goes, don't get me started. And he repeated it like 3 or 4 times.
But
and
Garrett,
then he had
that's what we're here to do, is get you started on it.
Yeah, really. So, it was funny. Everybody around and that was still there just kind of chuckled and laughed. And then he gave a longer answer. And but I think Reed's going to have a story on it later. But don't get me started. And it was very emphatic.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you, Rab. I don't have a problem with LSU at number 3 necessarily. Like, I think just you could say, okay, they could be 1, they could be 3, they could be 5. I mean, they're top 5 clearly. The fact that they were ranked behind Kyle Field, I think, is what sticks in people's craw.
Yeah, I would say Florida, when they're good, of course they haven't been as good lately. Florida Field to me was always one of the toughest places to play, Benny Hill Griffin Stadium. And Alabama, you would think they would, Michigan just coming off a national championship. But I've been to Michigan Stadium, and it's not as loud as some of these SEC venues. But Kyle Field, when the Longhorns show up, that might be something different. But by and large, week in, week out, I would have to go with Tiger Stadium. I know we're kind of seem like a biased, sample group here, but I still think LSU's reputation is such that it deserved a little better in that regard.
Yeah, and as I said with Koki and Reed last week, this is a combination of how good the home team typically is and the stadium environment. like the University of Wyoming wasn't considered, even though they play at 7,000 something feet. And objectively speaking, it's probably a pretty tough environment to play in as a road team. But the team's not at this level, and so we don't, we don't consider that. So it's definitely a subjective thing.
And you look at the last recent years. 2020 obviously was a down year for LSU football. 2021 wasn't any better. They lost a lot of home games, so maybe they're factoring that into it. And Texas A&M was very good in 2020. They almost made the college football playoff that year. So maybe that has something to do with it. But I'm sure LSU will demand a recount. That's good. If that's a little something that Garrett Nussmeier and the players could use to motivate them, I'm sure we'll see a sign or two in the student section, decrying EA Sports' decision.
I have my tongue firmly planted in cheek here when I say maybe they took into account the cheer crew or whatever they call them.
Oh, like Kyle Field.
Yell leaders.
The yell leaders.
Yeah, those guys will intimidate anybody.
I think that takes away points for myself.
Yeah. Well, look, we're 2 weeks from SEC Media Days, which is kind of the unofficial start of college football season, so plenty of talk coming about that. And LSU's got a lot of big home games this year. I mean, the bulk of their big pivotal games are at Tiger Stadium, so they'll get a chance to back up that ranking or show that it's too low. And we'll talk lots more about that in the coming weeks and month. But today we're on Olympic duty here on the LSU Sports Insider podcast. As Rab mentioned, the opening ceremony of the 2024 Olympics in Paris, July the 26th. So that's a Friday. That's coming up 3 weeks from this Friday. Scott, you'll be there. And LSU has, from what we can tell right now, 28 current or former athletes expected to compete in Paris. That's not an official number. Sheldon, as you were saying earlier this morning to me, like all of these countries just finished all of these Olympic trials yesterday. So some of the confirmation of who's going to be in the Olympics and who gets left home is still trickling in. But we're in contact with the coaches. We're looking at media releases and things like that. And our current count is 28.
Yeah, and a lot of it has to do with relay pools. I think in the 4x100 relay, I want to say it's 6, but it may be 8, and also the 4x400 relay. Then you have a mixed relay also, so male and female 4x400 relay. So a lot of the countries are establishing that, and also making sure that everybody's has hit the Olympic standard and those kind of things. So it's going to take a little while to sort it out and be official. And I think the U.S. team is going to be announced on July 7. Which is Sunday.
You're talking about athletics, track and field specifically.
Yeah.
The rest of these sports, some of the trials, swimming was obviously a couple of weeks ago. Gymnastics was this weekend as well. So some of these teams are more set than others, but we've got 28. We feel pretty good about that number. It's just not officially official yet.
And that's a little bit up from Tokyo 3 years ago. I think we had about 20 LSU athletes there were about 20 LSU athletes competing in Tokyo. So this would be significantly.
So it's a robust number for one school. And I think it's also important to note that the 2020 Olympics, which took place in 2021 in Tokyo, were the most successful for LSU athletes in the history of the games. They had 11 medals, 6 of them were gold medals. So now that includes, like, Simone Augustus was part of the women's basketball, not Simone Augustus.
Sylvia Fowles,
thank you, was part of the women's basketball gold medal winning team. She gets a gold medal, obviously. So 6 gold medals, 11 total medals. I think they could, maybe not the golds, but they could approach those numbers in terms of total medals, Scott.
Yeah, there's definitely some events that are like kind of toss-up events that we'll talk about. Like Sha'Carri Richardson, the 100-meter dash, very tough event. Maggie McNeil, the swimmer, in the 100-meter butterfly, very, very tough event. Mondo Duplantis, the pole vaulter, probably goes in. I would say, Sheldon, there probably isn't a bigger favorite in any event going into the Olympics than Mondo Duplantis to win. I mean, even Noah Lyles, the guy who just won the 100 and the 200.
Well, I could pick one, Sydney McLaughlin, Laverne.
But she was pretty darn good.
She's a rocket. And then also you have Rye Benjamin in the men's 400-meter hurdles. And you have Noah Lyles that could win the 100 and the 200 possibly. So the U.S. has got a lot of.
I got Bednarik looked really good though.
And I don't know specifically this year, but there's some of those distance swimming events where the favorite wins by 4 laps, where they could seriously go into the pool a full 2 laps later than everyone else and still win the race.
Katie Ledecky won like the 800 she was like half a pool ahead.
So you're as far as big favorites go, but Mondo's up there. He is, and we're going to start with track and field, and I wanted to start with Sha'Carri Richardson. Kind of a mixed bag for her at the Olympic trials, Sheldon. She qualifies in the 100, she wins the 100, and it probably goes into Paris as the favorite in that race, at least a small favorite. I mean, it's a very volatile event. You can have false starts, you can get yourself DQ'd, you could just a bad start could cost you precious hundreds of seconds. But she probably goes in as the favorite in name. But then in the 200, expected to make it there too, and she does not. So a little bit of a mixed bag for Richardson.
Well, she was the bronze medalist at the World Championships last year in the 200, and won the gold in the 100, and won the gold in the 4x100. The 100, frankly, is her better event. She set the collegiate record in the event in 2019, a record that had stood for 30 years. The great Dawn Sowell from LSU held that record for 30 years, and she finally was the one that broke it. And then, of course, she won the 100 at the 2021 Olympic trials, which was the 2020 games. It happened in 21, and then she had the problem with the drug test. And so bottom line is that 200 is not her better event, although she ran the rounds, the first round and the semifinals of the 200 Thursday and Friday night, I guess it was. And she was right there, and she had the fastest time in the first round. She had the second fastest in the semifinals. And she just did not get a good start. And when she came around the curve at the top of the stretch, she had 100 meters to go, and it just wasn't there. So I don't know if fatigue had set in or whatever had set in, but she's really a better 100-meter sprinter. And she tried to come back there at the end, but she just didn't have it. That was a pretty good field. I mean, when you look at it, you had two young ladies that didn't make it, Jenna Prandini and Abby Steiner from Kentucky. Prandini used to compete at Oregon. And they were in that event, and they finished 5th and 6th, and she got 4th. So you could see how deep the U.S. 100 and 200 is going to be in that event.
Does missing out on the 200 make her less of a favorite in the 100, you think? Because, again, we saw Noah Lyles look very dominant by winning the 100 and the 200.
I don't think, because I think she's very motivated for one thing, and I think the 100 meters, she's going to be extra motivated for that. And then she doesn't have to worry about running rounds in the 200 now.
I was going to say, if anything, I argue it makes her more of a favorite. She's got less to do.
Yep, exactly. So I think she's in good shape to win the 100. Now, Jamaica, I know they have one of their sprinters is not going to compete. She got hurt. And I couldn't tell you what happened at their trials yesterday because I was so focused on worrying about what was happening with Javon Harrison. But I don't know what happened in their trials, who ran what, so I couldn't tell you about it. But they had 3 awesome ones last year at the World Championships, and she beat them all.
As you look to follow storylines in Paris for LSU athletes, Rab, Sha'Carri's, I don't know if she's at the top of the list, but, man, she is a national story. I mean, she's going to be one of the faces of this U.S. team. Just because, number one, she's good. It's a marquee event. It's the 100-meter dash, but also because of what happened 3 years ago when she gets left off the U.S. team for Tokyo because of a failed drug test. And for those who don't remember, it was not performance-enhancing drugs. We're talking about marijuana, which, like, come on, if you know anything about today's culture and today's athletes, that's not an uncommon thing, but it was against the rules. It kind of put her in the crosshairs of controversy, and she didn't shy away from that. So here she is back 3 years later, and it's this redemption story that anyone can get behind. People love a winner, but what they love even more is a redemption story. And as someone who comes back from something like that, when she was, I don't know if she would have won the gold medal in Tokyo, Sheldon.
Probably not.
But
certainly was a contender. And but now she comes back. She's the world champion in the 100. She won that last summer, and then she's the favorite at this point. And she's come back, and she owned it. She owned the whole thing. So I had these things going on in my life, the death in the family, and it affected her, and she had a moment of weakness, and it does seem by modern standards to be something that's a bit draconian, But that was the rule at the time, and everyone plays by the same rules. And now she's back. She's better than ever. She's probably used this whole incident as motivation for her the last few years. And you could see what it meant to her when she won the 100-meter trials in Eugene, Oregon. What it meant to her, when it just hit her. You could just, this means so much to these athletes. I mean, they compete, professionally, and obviously this World Championships. But this is the Olympics. This is what you point to every 4 years usually. And so, it's a tremendous story. And I think she goes in as one of the faces of the U.S. Olympic contingent, the entire contingent, along with Simone Biles, along with Katie Ledecky, probably Noah Lyles, as we've mentioned. One of those small handful of U.S. athletes who are going to get the most attention. And it's such a marquee event, the women's 100 meters, just like the men's 100 meters. All eyes are going to be on her to see if she can do it. And if she can, it's going to be one of the... Whatever she does, it's going to be one of the biggest stories of the games, I think.
Yeah, she's tailor-made for one of those NBC Sports vignettes that they'll show in the lead-up to her event and things like that. So it'll be LSU front and center at the Olympics, no doubt about it.
Yes.
Probably not getting his own vignette on NBC Sports, maybe on Swedish television is the next guy we want to talk about, and that's Mondo Duplantis, who, from Lafayette, grew up, obviously, an LSU family. His brother played baseball. LSU through and through, but competes for Sweden in the pole vault. As you mentioned, Sheldon, just overwhelming favorite to win the gold medal. It can be a volatile event also. I mean, you have a couple of misses and all of a sudden you can get knocked out of this thing.
Pressure builds.
But he did it. He's the reigning Olympic champion. He won the pole vault in 2021. He's reset the world record, I think, 8 times.
8 times, yes.
And 6.24 meters is the latest one. That was from April. If he's at his A game, on his A game, no one can compete with this kid.
I've seen him lose one time. Now, obviously, I haven't seen him compete in person, in the last 4 or 5 years, but I saw him lose in the 2019 NCAA championships, where a guy named from, I think he's North Dakota State or South Dakota. His name is Chris Nielsen. He'll be on the team again, on the U.S. team. He lost to Chris at the 2019 meet in Austin, Texas. It was the only time I've ever seen Mondo lose. And he competed at LSU that whole year. I watched him in high school. He competed at LSU for 1 year. He was in the indoor and outdoor championships. And I think he won the indoor, but he didn't win the outdoor. But it was a great rivalry they've always had. But Chris Nielsen is not obviously close to what Mondo is. And Mondo is just, I call him the machine. He's a machine. He just kind of gets his job done. He gets his work done. And next thing you know, he's up to 20 feet 4 inches, 20 feet 5. Now he's at, I think, 20 feet 6.5 is the American conversion. So, he's heavily favored. I don't know what it would be. In the old days, it'd be 1 to 20 or whatever. You'd have to bet.
He's minus 500.
You'd have
to
bet $20 to win $1.
You bet 5 to win 1. He's minus 500 from what I've seen.
He's trying to do something that has been rarely done in the Olympics. A couple of things. One, only one person has won the men's pole vault back-to-back. That was Bob Richards, the first athlete ever on a Wheaties box.
Wheaties box, yep.
Yeah, he was an ordained minister. They called him the vaulting vicar, the pole vaulting parson. And then only one other athlete, Sheldon, the name escapes me. He was a guy from Poland. His only one has won back-to-back Olympic pole vault titles. You might know the athlete. It's a very long name. I'm sorry, I haven't committed it to memory, but it's been rarely done. And so setting the world record at the Olympics is very. I think I misspoke there. Bob Richards won back to back. Setting the last guy to win, the guy from Poland was the last one to set the world record in the Olympics. That's only been done twice.
He's a Pole in the pole vault.
It wasn't Sergei Bubka?
No, it was not. That's not setting the world record in the Olympics.
That's an unfair advantage for a pole. You're missing my dad joke for a pole in the pole vault.
That's a good dad joke.
Now, I have some Polish blood in me, so be careful here.
Look. Mondo is obviously just, I think they will probably show him on NBC just because he's from Louisiana.
Absolutely.
And people love dominance. Like, he's not competing for Team USA, which is a whole other story. I mean, that's a business decision, right? Like, you're going to make a lot more money as a pole vaulter in Sweden than you are in the U.S. Go ahead, Sheldon.
you hit on a subject that's very,
I know it's a
very
sore
sensitive,
subject.
and I'll tell you why. And everybody and their brother ask me this all the time. Why is he competing for Sweden? I'll tell you why he's competing for Sweden. He's a rock star over there. Now, if he was just, okay, I'm going to go to Sweden, I'm going to become a Swede, I'm going to change my nationality, fine. You could rip him all you want. His mother is Swedish. His grandparents live in Sweden. He moved to Sweden. He competes there all summer long when it's 65 degrees and it's not 110. He's a rock star. He makes money like you wouldn't believe. So why would you compete for the U.S.? And I know I don't want any cards and letters coming in now, but
you would do the same thing.
I would do the same thing, basically.
I'm talking to our listeners. You do the same thing.
Yeah, I would do the same thing because, and I'm going to tell you why. If you go to the U.S. Olympic trials, and Dan O'Brien's a great example. You go to the Olympic trials, and you're on your third attempt, and you got to make it to make the U.S. team. And you go and you plant your pole in the box, and it snaps on you, and you don't get over the bar. You don't go to the Olympics. He has a contract. I think it's with Nike, obviously. Might not be. It might be Adidas. Anyway, he has a contract, and he has to live up to that contract. So he's putting his contract. He's putting his livelihood on the line on a make or miss situation. Maybe not. And he doesn't have to do that in Sweden. I think he told Rab that there's only one other pole vaulter in Sweden.
I think that he said, I think there's one. So there's no trials. Yeah. There's no like, hey, you make the mark or you don't. No,
the kid is half Swedish. His mother, competed at LSU in track and in volleyball. I covered her in the mid '80s as I did. I covered his dad at LSU in the early '80s. So it's not like, oh, he's turning his back on the U.S. to go compete in Sweden. He became a Swede, and now he's going to do that.
And it's fair to say he still has loyalties to LSU, too. So
absolutely.
He's going to be representing the purple and gold.
He keeps a home here in Baton Rouge.
He still trains out at the track with his dad. His dad comes over.
His dad is his coach. And the whole family is just, mom and dad both competed in track at LSU. His brother, of course, Antoine, is LSU's all-time hits leader. And his other brother was
Andreas.
Andreas also was a pole vaulter, and their younger sister is on the team. It is an amazing athletic family. And they've all competed for LSU at one point or another. So, people should root for him just as much as they root for any American athlete, in my opinion.
Pertinent question before we move on. What would it take to get you to do a first-person pole vault in Paris? We could set up a little video crew.
A big ladder.
I mean, we're not expecting Mondo numbers, but maybe 2 meters, 3 meters. Could we get you?
I guess with a little training, maybe I could get over a bar that's at a hurdle level. Maybe so.
If you could just hang on to the pole itself
that would be nice.
It's funny how you talk about the degree of difficulty in certain events, especially in gymnastics where they're doing all these flips, but it's very much like a pole vaulter. I mean, just sit there and watch a slow motion of a good pole vaulter, like a great pole vaulter like Mondo, and you get up in the air and you twist in your body, you bend in your back, you're going over the bar, and you got to make sure nothing hits the bar or very lightly. And, I mean, it's very athletic. I mean, it's a lot. It looks gymnastics.
I still remember, in fact, a lot of pole vaulters have gymnastics backgrounds. I still remember, I covered high school track for years in California. You mentioned Jenna Prandini, saw her run many times. And I covered a great thrower who won a couple of state championships. And I caught him one day after he was finished throwing for the day, just staring slack-jawed at the pole vault and going, hey, Deshaun, would you ever try that? And they just know it's not. It's dangerous. It's athletic. It's all of those things. So fun to watch. And that's Mondo Duplantis. Wanted to spend a minute on other LSU track athletes who will be in Paris. And this is the biggest contingent. I think there's 13 of them for various countries, Sheldon. And
unofficial.
You mentioned, unofficial again, not confirmed, but there's several for the U.S., but there's also Great Britain, Nigeria, Liberia,
Jamaica.
Did you say Mexico? Many countries represented
Mexico,
here. Not a lot of these people will be medal favorites, although I did want to mention Javon Harrison, who is not confirmed because he finished 4th at the Olympic trials. We won't get into all of the specific reasons why, but he is expected to make the team and be a medal threat.
And while you're on Javon Harrison, here's a little tidbit. He could be competing for Jamaica right now, but he's competing for the U.S. His mother is Jamaican and moved to Alabama to compete at Alabama A&M, I believe. So he grew up in Huntsville, Alabama. He was born there. he could easily compete for Jamaica if he wanted to. He could have made that high jump team without blinking. And he chose to compete for the U.S. Not the same event, obviously, and not the same amount of money, obviously. But he does have a nice contract with Puma. But it just shows you that he is competing. He's not going to Jamaica, so he's competing for the U.S. So it's not everybody that has the opportunity to do what Mondo is doing.
Yeah, true. Vernon Norwood will be in the relay, and U.S. relays always have a chance to medal. So it'll be a busy track week there in Paris.
And you mentioned, obviously, I hate to keep butting in here, but Vernon Norwood has 10 medals from Olympics and the World Championships, and all in relays. And he missed making it in an individual event for the first time, and he got 4th place. The guy is 32 years old. He just keeps on. He just keeps on. He doesn't want to quit. He was a 2-time NCAA champion at 400 meters. He's been competing. He was 5th at the last Olympic trials. He was 4th this time, just missed. But he's going to be probably in the mixed relay. Now, the mixed relay is 2 men, 2 women run a leg each on the 4x400 relay, and he won a bronze medal, I think, at the last Olympics or World Championships, 1 or 2. But the guy is a valued relay runner. They love him to death. He's experienced. He's, like I said, he's won 10 either Olympics or World Championships medals. He won a gold medal at the last Olympics in the 4x400. Born in New Orleans, I think his family moved to Morgan City after Katrina, and he grew up in Morgan City, went to high school there. So he is a current volunteer coach on the LSU staff right now, and a very personable guy. You got to pull for him, and like I said, he's going to be in the pool, the mixed relay pool and the 4x400 pool, as will Aaliyah Hobbs, who I think got 4th or 5th in the 100.
I thought she was 4th.
4th or 5th, yeah. She's going to be in the women's 4x100 pool along with Sha'Carri Richardson.
And by the way, the track they put down at the Stade de France is purple. So they're going to be running on a purple track.
It'll be like home colors. Yeah, I mean, really a tribute to Dennis Shaver's program that they have this big a contingent at the Olympics. So, hey, want to take a quick minute here on the LSU Sports Insider podcast to remind you to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on the video, share it with your friends. LSU at the Olympics is today's topic. Going to move on to beach volleyball, where, speaking of medal
threats... I'll take over Sheldon. Sheldon's our expert on track for that.
Yeah, Sheldon could talk track all day, and it's fascinating. But
it is.
Plenty of other LSU athletes, current or former Tigers, to talk about. And these two really kind of put LSU's beach volleyball program on the map. We're talking about Kristen Nuss and Taryn Kloth. And they are, I believe, at last ranking ranked number 2 in the world behind a Brazilian team. So very much medal threats in Paris.
100%. And in their last event, the last beach volleyball tournament they were in on their professional circuit, they beat the Brazilians for the first time. Not in the final, like in one of the preliminary matches. And so that was a big psychological boost for them. They have one more event. They're in Stade, Switzerland this weekend. That seems like a nice place to be.
I was going to say, it's not a bad way to spend your summer.
No. It sounds okay. I could not convince the advocate to send me to Stade for that preliminary event, so I'll just settle for seeing them in Paris. But yes, very much a medal contender. It's set up, it's a very tournament-like format, kind of like the World Cup. They're going to have pool play, then they go to a knockout round of 16, and their tournament lasts pretty much the length of the Olympics. And they probably have the coolest venue in the entire Olympics. They've built a temporary stadium literally in the shadow of the Eiffel Tower, right there in the park called the Champ de Mars. And it's the Eiffel Tower. Whenever you see them compete, the Eiffel Tower will be in the background. So that's going to be very cool. But I think people are going to be really following their story. They got together as a team at LSU. They were undefeated, I believe 34-0 as the number one court. And of course, Kristen Nuss is from New Orleans. She went to Mount Carmel.
That there's no beach in Paris, but there's no beach in Baton Rouge either, and they made it work. So
exactly.
I'll take that venue over the Seine, the open water swimming. That's the one I don't think I would get in.
They're close enough to the Seine, probably for me too. Yes.
Yeah. All right, so that's beach volleyball. Moving on now to gymnastics, and this one's a little bit Aaliyah Finnegan is going to compete for the Philippines. There's several other sort of ancillary LSU ties to the Olympics, and some almost, and some heartbreaks, and some maybe future Tigers and things like that. So, Rab, explain what that's all about.
Yes, Aaliyah Finnegan is from Kansas City, but her mother, kind of like we're talking about some of these other athletes, her mother's from the Philippines. So she is competing for the Philippines. Let's be honest, she's a tremendous athlete. She won the NCAA floor title as LSU won the NCAA team championship in April, but she would not have made the U.S. team. Her sister Sarah was a tremendous gymnast. Also, she was an alternate in 2012 for the London Games. But she's going to be an Olympian, and I think that's a tremendous achievement. And she's going there to represent the Philippines, and hopefully she'll do well. I don't think she's a medal threat, but the mere fact that you're an Olympian says something. LSU has a recruit named Kalia Lincoln, who was just in the Olympic trials that finished Sunday night in Minneapolis. She is a non-traveling alternate. You got 5 on the team, Simone Biles and 4 others, 2 traveling alternates who also go to Paris, and 2 who are non-traveling alternates. It's a nice honor. The chances of her getting to compete are remote at best, obviously, but it's nonetheless a nice honor. She will enroll at LSU this fall and compete for LSU in 2025. Connor McLean, I spoke to LSU coach Jay Clark, and of course, it's she's one of his gymnasts. Connor McLean was a tremendous gymnast for LSU this past season as a freshman, an Olympic threat. With some of the other gymnasts who went down, Jay thought if she was healthy, she would have made the team. He really thinks that she would have made a team, but in a pre-Olympic meet earlier this year, she tore her Achilles. She was out. There were a lot of injuries to a lot of really good gymnasts leading up to this, and unfortunately, she was one of them. But she was out. But there's a gymnast on the team. Her name is someone to watch. Her name is Hesley Rivera. She trains at the same gym that Connor McLean does in the Dallas area. She's originally from New Jersey. Knows Olivia Dunn, who's from New Jersey, who's likely returning to LSU. Waiting for the official word on that. And then Hesley Rivera is. She's strongly considering LSU right now. Not coming to LSU till way down the road. Like she would graduate from high school in 2026, and she may even defer till, since she made this team, she may even defer till after the LA Olympics in 28. But someone that people can say down the road, hey, this is someone who they could be seeing compete in the PMAC in the future for the Tigers. So Hesley Rivera is 16 years old and kind of a bit of a surprise, I think. But she's on the team, and with the fact that Simone Biles is if she does what she's supposed to do, probably going to be having a gold medal around her neck in short order.
Yeah. How many people, Sheldon, do you think listen to that and their ears just perked up at Livy Dunn coming back to LSU?
She's not going to the Olympics.
She's not going to the Olympics, but that's the name that sticks out.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you say Paul Skeens, same thing. I mean, they kind of obviously go together now, obviously, and it like you said, it perks their ears up. They see her commercials, they see her picture, they see.
I'm sure we'll see her commercials in the Olympics. Yeah, they're LSU's Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, right?
Yeah,
Paul Skeens and Livy Dunn.
Honestly, like if you Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, their own thing. Number 2 sports power couple in this country. They've got to be in contention for that. I don't know who else would be.
Got a shot. Yeah.
I mean, now that with what Paul Skeens is doing in Major League Baseball, he's the Rookie of the Year favorite, heavy favorite to win Rookie of the Year in the National League. They've got to be right up there. I'm not going to claim I'm an expert on these things and who else would be a contender. I have to ask my 13-year-old daughter. Maybe she would know, but.
Get her onto the podcast.
She would enjoy that. She would enjoy that. All right, we're going to move on and talk some swimming. This is the second. If you include swimming and diving, I believe it's 10 former LSU athletes or current LSU athletes in the pool in Paris, and some of them a pretty good chance. Again, we talk about medal favorites, and it's Maggie McNeil who will compete for Canada, who is the defending 100-meter butterfly champ. Kind of a volatile event again. I mean, these sprints are always, you have to get off to a good start. You have to be at your best that day.
Yeah.
But she's got a chance to do it again.
She definitely does. Maggie McNeil in Tokyo was a bit of a surprise. You can go back, you can find that race on YouTube. She was 7th at the turn and just blazed past everybody in the last 50 meters to win that event. An American, the American trials in Indianapolis, one of the American swimmers set the world record in that event. So she's got something to compete for. no one has ever won the women's 100-meter butterfly in back-to-back Olympics since it was started in 1956 in Melbourne. So she would be trying to make history. And she competed at Michigan for 4 years. She had a graduate year, a fifth year, like a lot of athletes do. Rick Bishop, who's the LSU coach, was an assistant at Michigan. She decided to follow him down here, won an NCAA championship, and then she's continued to train at LSU until just recently. I assume I think they're training in Normandy, I believe, the Canadian swimming team. So she's there now. So she's trying to make history, someone to watch. Also, someone to watch is Brooks Curry. He's on the 4x2 relay team. And he was a gold medalist. Like Sheldon mentioned, some of the track athletes in the pool, he was one of the preliminary swimmers. But if you're a prelim runner or swimmer in a relay, you get a gold medal, and he did. And now I was in the 4x1, and he will be competing in that event too. Also, Maggie McNeil expected to swim for Canada in the 4x100 medley relay. So yes, definitely some people. I love the swimming events in the pool. I'm looking forward to those tremendously.
Well, and you brought something up that's interesting. These preliminary relays, and we talk about the relay pool, Sheldon, like those athletes are important because some of the runners and swimmers who will be in the relay finals, or if all goes according to plan, they'll be in the finals. Like they got a lot of races to go through, and fatigue starts to set in, mental, emotional, and of course physical fatigue. So those prelim, just to get them through to the finals, just do your part, play your role. We talk about teamwork a lot. Like that's a good way to earn a gold medal for if you're not quite at the very top.
Well, perfect example is Noah Lyles. We talked about him winning the 100 and 200. I would be surprised if he's going to run. I think the 4x100 is only a semifinal. They don't have a first round. So I would not expect to see him in the semis because he's going to have 6 races under his belt by the time they get there in the 100 and the 200 probably, if he makes it to the final of both. So they're probably going to try to use somebody else to get, and then he'll run in the final. Now, U.S. 4x100 men's relay team has had some misadventure along the way here in the last dozen years or so, and they may not take a chance. They may say, hey, you got to run the semi. So we'll see how it pans out. I mean, it depends on how he feels and everything. But, I mean, he's running really well right now.
Yeah, and I mean, you just don't get somebody in there who's, as I said, mentally exhausted, and they may be more likely to drop a baton or make a mistake or something. So when you're the U.S., you have such a huge advantage because your, let's say, 5 through 8 runners are good enough to get your team into the final and get a decent lane, and then you can rest those 1 through 4 runners for the final. I mean, and the same thing in swimming, Rab. It can be a big advantage for these countries with deep pools of swimmers.
And in the U.S., Brooks Curry is swimming for the American team is a very deep swimming team, men's and women's this year. So yeah, if you're getting to do anything, is really an honor. And as we said with track, there's a lot of athletes competing for other countries in swimming and diving from LSU, Mexico, Italy, Norway, Croatia, Bosnia. I mean, they're from all over the map. And are they gonna win medals? Obviously, most of them are not. Most of the athletes who can 10,000 athletes at the Olympics. Obviously, most of them will not win medals, but they can be in the opening ceremony. They can represent their country. They can march behind that flag, and it's something they can say the rest of their lives. Like Lolo Jones, who we just saw compete again in the trials this week. She never won a medal. But she competed in 5 Olympics, summer and winter, as a hurdler and as a bobsledder. And it's a shame she never won a medal because she hit that hurdle in Beijing in 2008 when she was at the top of her game. But she's a 5-time Olympian. That has to count for something. And I think all these athletes deserve everyone's respect. We get hung up on the medals. You think of just Michael Phelps or Simone Biles or Katie Ledecky or something like that, and they all deserve respect. It's a heck of a achievement and a heck of a sacrifice that they make to get to this level. And I think they all deserve. I'm glad we're getting to mention a lot of them here on the show.
Yeah, I mean, I think my son is pretty athletic and plays sports at a youth level, travel ball level, and competes. You start to teach these kids about levels, and the Olympics are such a great perspective creator, right? Like you have, okay, my son is a good athlete, probably not a good enough athlete to get a big time college scholarship. Okay. That's another level. After that, you have another level to be not just get a scholarship, but excel at the collegiate level. Now you have another level to be pro. And in some of these sports, the Olympics just making the team, especially in the U.S., is a whole nother level. Then you've got the prelims, then you've got the finals, and then finally at the top, you've got your Michael Phelps and Simone Biles and these athletes who are winning multiple gold medals. And that pool gets so much smaller and more difficult to raise to the next level.
Absolutely.
For each time you're going up a rung on that ladder, that you got to keep it in perspective that just to make it to Paris is tremendous.
And I want to throw in an athlete. I don't know if you had on your list to talk about, but it'll be interesting to see. I'll be very interested to see how people follow her story, and that's Haley Van Lith, who came to LSU from Louisville, played one season, wasn't the best fit for her, trying to be the point guard. Now she's made the U.S. 3-on-3 basketball team. So you have the 5-on-5 team, of course, and of course there's a lot of controversy why Caitlin Clark got left off the team or not, but she's not on it. But Haley's competing, one of the 4 athletes competing in 3-on-3 basketball. She was on the team that won the World Cup last year in Austria, and she's put in her dues. She has put in her time to. She's gone to like just about every U.S. competition that they have for USA basketball, and was a very deserving player. And we'll see if she can get a gold medal. I think people are still going to follow her story as well. It's going to be interesting to see what she does in that sport, which is an emerging sport in the world.
Yeah, another good transition for us, because on the LSU Sports Insider podcast here, as we talk about LSU athletes, current or former Tigers, in the Olympics in Paris this month and next month. She's one of the ones I mentioned here on this final graphic. The other one was Juan Celaya Hernandez, the diver for Mexico, who I believe was 4th in the team event in Tokyo. So clearly, possibly could win a medal. Mm-hmm. And then there's just some, look, we've got to acknowledge what a tremendous accomplishment it is just to make it to these games for some of these other athletes.
It is. I mean, it's one of my neighbors, her brother, not someone from here. He grew up in Missouri. He was a kayaker in Athens in 2004. And like I said, didn't medal, but he can call himself an Olympian the rest of his life. Ruby Harold was a gymnast here at LSU. She deferred because they wanted her to compete for Great Britain in the 2016 Olympics in Rio. They finished 5th as a team. Didn't medal, but 5th, that's pretty darn good. She wore this little Olympic necklace. Every time I saw her at LSU, she was wearing this thing with the Olympic medal. Yeah. I would do that, and that's something you can say the rest of your life is that you were Olympian. And if you can medal, if you can just medal, I think Rory McIlroy said he was in the golf competition in Tokyo, and he was there was this huge playoff for the bronze medal, and he didn't get it. He said, "I never fought."
6-way playoff. I think.
Yeah, it was a lot of guys, and he said, "I've never fought so hard for 3rd place in my life," because he wanted that medal, didn't get it, but he was in the mix. So we'll there's a lot. Just what did Baron de Coubertin, who founded the modern Olympics, say? The important thing is to take part. And I think that I really think that's true. And I think we get caught up in the medals and the hype and the endorsements and and things like that. And just to compete, it means something. What did John Stephen Aquari say? The guy who fell in the Mexico City marathon in 1968, and he fell and he finished an hour after the winner did. He said, "My country didn't send me 5,000 miles to start the race. They sent me 5,000 miles to finish the race." Finish the race, and that's what a lot of these athletes will do, and move on to these other things in their lives, but lives that they will be able to say the rest of my life, I was an Olympian, and I think that deserves a tremendous amount of respect.
You are a scholar and a philosopher, Mr. Rabelais. And we're sending you 5,000 miles or so, maybe 6,000 to Paris to cover the Olympics. Sheldon, you're the track expert, and that's the biggest LSU contingent, but I think you echo a lot of those thoughts as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at, these kids, in this case, they've waited 3 years to get to the Olympics. Afing Mo, who was like, you talk about heartbreak. She's had some injuries this year, so she hasn't competed as much. She gets in the 800-meter, I don't know if it was the first round or semifinals, but anyway, she gets her feet tangled up with a runner in front of her, and she falls down, and she doesn't get in the top. She doesn't make the next round, doesn't get to the final. That's the ones you feel for, a lot, because I mean, she was a gold medalist at the World Championships. She was a gold medalist at the Olympics as a 19-year-old kid 3 years ago, and they don't make it, so they got to wait another whole 4 years to make it again. So you kind of, you think about those kids, and you think about the ones, you're happy for the ones that make a final. Some of them, like Rab said, aren't going to, get a medal. they can say, hey, I ran in a final of the 100 meters at the Olympics. I mean, it's big.
What an
big
incredible experience.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, we hope you enjoyed us kind of running down. Obviously, it's very quick. We could talk for an hour about each of these athletes and their journey, but the 28, as of current count, unofficially, LSU athletes who are going to be at the Paris Olympics. If you enjoyed the content, enjoyed learning about some of them, hit the like button for us on YouTube or Facebook and share the video. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, the LSU Sports at the Advocate YouTube channel, and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you may be listening. We're going to be back, take a little holiday break, but be back next week. And football season's right around the corner, boys. I mean, Rab, you're going to be busy in Paris, but it starts
coming. When we go to Media Days in Dallas. That's when football season starts for sure.
SEC Media Days in Dallas sounds
2
weird.
weeks from today.
Sounds very weird.
Yeah, LSU's Day will be on the Monday, the 15th.
Yeah, so we may do a little preview of LSU at SEC Media Days next week. Our producer today was Robert Young. That's Sheldon Mickles and Scott Rabalais. I'm Zach Ewing. Thanks for watching the LSU Sports Insider podcast, and we'll see you next time.